I have a free cut file for you, and I'm going to show you how you can print and cut this puzzle to give as a gift. How to make a print and cut puzzle with your Silhouette. I have a free cut file for you. Two actually. One is a cute heart puzzle and the other is a gift box. You can make it as a Valentine gift or for any time you want to say I love you. So the puzzle maker is one of the features in Silhouette Studio Business Edition, but I have created this file for you so you just have to print and cut it out, so it can be done with any version of the Silhouette software. The supplies you'll need for this project are the Valentine heart puzzle cut files from littlegraysquirrel.com resource library, which I'll show you in a minute, white poster board or cardstock, that's for the actual puzzle. You'll need it cut into 8.5 by 11 inch letter size so it can go through your printer. You'll need red or any color of your choice poster board or cardstock for the box that's at least 7 inches by 10 inches, a color printer, I'm using the Canon Pixma inkjet, a Silhouette or other cutting machine, a brayer, which is optional, but I've started using these to smooth materials onto the mat and it's really awesome. And then clothespins, and you'll finally need glue or your favorite adhesive for paper crafts. I will put a link in the description to the post with written instructions and helpful links if you need them. First, you're going to go to littlegraysquirrel.com/library. This is where you can sign up for my newsletter, and when you do that, you get free access to my resource library. So you just enter your name and email and click I want in, and you'll immediately get that password, and then you'll get a link in the email. There's a link here to the library, or you can come back to the website and click on Little Gray Squirrel for your resource library. There'll be a blank bar, and you'll just enter the password in there and hit enter, and then this is my resource library. So if this is your first time visiting, there's just some information about how to download the files, what you can do with the files, and then you'll get to my files. There may be more by the time you access it, but just scroll down until you get to the Valentine heart puzzle and gift box, and then I will have a link to the post when it's available. Go ahead and click on the link and it will download the file either down here, or sometimes there's an arrow up here, however your computer downloads files. And then also while you're downloading the Valentine heart puzzle file, if you want to go down to the Perfect Silhouette Cut Settings printable sheet and download that as well, I like to keep one of those on hand. Every time I do a test cut, I fill in the blanks. It's a blank form, but it has materials, cut settings, and you can enter in all your cut settings. So next time you go to use that material like cardstock or poster board, if it's something you don't use very often, you'll have a place to start at, so you don't have to start over with test cut. Of course, you're welcome to any of these other files if they are interesting to you. Once the file is downloaded, choose where you want to save your files. For example, I have a folder on an external hard drive where I save my Silhouette files. I will show you that here. So this is my external hard drive, and then in my folders I have this Valentine heart puzzle. So you can go ahead and drag your file to that folder, and you'll see here's the zipped file. So I already have these extracted, but what you do is just right click on the zipped folder, choose extract all, and then it's pointing to that folder, and you would just click extract and they would show up right here, and I already have it there, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Once you've extracted these files, you can go ahead and delete the zip folder if you want. You don't need it anymore. Or if you want to keep the zip folder because it takes up less space, you can use the file today or when you want to use it and then delete these and keep your zip file, whichever you prefer. Now I'm going to show you how to print and cut in Silhouette Studio. I have Silhouette Studio open, and once again I have Business Edition, but you can do this in any version of the software. There's a few different ways to bring a file into Silhouette Studio. What I recommend is that you go to File, Open, and then we're going to navigate to where the file was saved. So I'm going to use the Valentine heart puzzle, and I'm going to use the Silhouette Studio file. So you can see the file types here. The files that show Microsoft Edge HTML, or if you use Chrome or Firefox as your browser, those are the SVG files. So if you're using a Cricut, Brother Scan and Cut, or some other type of craft cutter that uses SVG files, you could use those. But if you have a Silhouette, I highly recommend using the Silhouette Studio file just because it will be easier. So go ahead and select the Valentine heart puzzle and then click OK. And now it will open in the software. And here's the file. So since I opened the studio file, the file is going to open with all the page settings intact. So it's going to be already set to 8.5 by 11. The letter size, it's going to have the design with the cut lines on it. It has the show cut border, which I have selected, which is really helpful to see when you're doing print and cut to make sure everything is within the cut border. And it will already have the registration marks on. If you had grabbed the file and drug it into Silhouette Studio, you would just have the file. You will still have to change the page settings, turn on your registration marks, make sure everything's within the right line. So it's just easier to do it with the studio file. If you haven't already, go ahead and cut your sheet of poster board down, the white piece, to 8 8.5 by 11 because you'll need it to be able to go through your printer. Okay, so I'm going to get the file ready to print, and then I'm going to go load the paper into the printer. To get the file ready to print, so go to File, down to Print, make sure the printer you're going to use is selected, click on Preferences. I'm going to do plain paper, change it to high quality printing, and I'm going to change the paper source to the rear tray because I'm using poster board, so it wouldn't actually feed through the regular paper tray. You want to make sure that the paper you're using is compatible with your printer and that you use the correct paper source, and then select OK. And now I will select print. And because this is an image, it's going to take a few minutes for it to be sent to the printer. Okay, so here's my printer. I need to open the front of it so that it can print. And I have my 8.5 piece of poster board here. I'm going to open the rear tray. And I'm going to load it so that it prints on the shiny side. So poster board usually has two sides. I have a shiny and a matte side. So I'm going to load this shiny side up. Close loaded. And it is going to print when it's ready. There's my printed out file. So now I'm going to take it back down to the craft room, cut it out. Now that the file is printed, it's time to send it to cut. So open the send panel. If you printed out the My Perfect Silhouette Settings form, it's a good time to get that out and do some test cuts with your cardstock if you don't already have your perfect cut settings ready for those. I've already done that. The material setting doesn't really matter since I usually change it anyway. I'm going to have the action set to auto, which is cut. The tool, I'm using the auto blade. I can see that the cut lines are already highlighted in red. So if I were to select those, I could see that it's set to cut. For my cut settings, I'm going to use a blade of 5, force of 25, and you can either use this or you can highlight and type in what you want. Passes to line segment overcut turned on, and a speed of 4. So my cut settings are all set. I have my Cameo 4 turned on, so it's ready here. I'm going to put my printed design on the mat and load it into the machine. So make sure after it prints out that it dries completely. I think I may have bumped it a little bit here, but you want to make sure that the ink is completely dry before you apply it to your mat. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm using my Cameo 4, so I have my 12-inch mat, and you just make sure you place the design in the upper left corner as it appears on your screen, your design software. And then I'm using the brayer. You don't have to, but it really does a great job of adhering the material to the mat. Now I can go ahead and load this in the machine. Here I have my Cameo 4. The auto blade is loaded correctly. It's all the way down. The clip is closed so I can see the entire blue circle. I'm going to line up the edge of the mat with the gray line. Make sure my rollers are in the right position where they're going to roll down the sides of the mat and not directly on the sticky parts. And then select load. With the mat loaded, I can go ahead and click send. So first I want to make sure that the machine is registering the registration marks correctly. And I'm going to keep a finger over the pause button here. If it starts to cut in a place where it shouldn't, I'm going to hit pause really quick. But hopefully it'll just cut right the first time. See, it's a little bit off. In the software, I'm going to press this X to cancel the cut. Pause button will stop flashing and the unload button will light back up. So now I can just unload, which will cancel. Okay, so now I'm going to try that again. I'm going to use both hands to actually load the mat. Okay, I have it reloaded. So since this is actually just the image that goes on the front of the box, I think it's okay. I'm going to leave that and just let it cut again. So I have it loaded and I'm going to click send. This cut should probably take about 4.5 to 5 minutes to cut out. So I'll speed it up here. before you unload it, you always want to check it. So just grab a little corner here and peel it up and make sure it cut all the way through. If it did not, then you can go back into the software and just hit send again, and it will most likely register and cut in exactly the same spot. But especially with puzzles, you want to make sure that it cut through. Otherwise, it's a lot of work to make sure that all the pieces will separate. So this looks good. I'm going to go ahead and unload. To unload materials from your mat, you have a couple options. If it's something that's large and you're worried about it peeling, then you want to turn the mat over and peel the mat off of the cut items. In the case of the puzzle, it's not as important to do that because the small pieces probably wouldn't curl. So you could, if they stick to the mat, you can just peel them off. So we have our mat removed, and then we have our puzzle cut. And it still has little tiny pieces that are stuck together, but that's okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and separate these, and then I have the image that goes on the outside of the box. I'm just gonna use my X-Acto a little bit here in this spot where it didn't cut through because I had 2 cut lines. There we go. And then I will, I'll probably trim this off here too, just so it looks a little bit nicer. Okay, I still think that's okay to go on outside of the puzzle box. It's just an image to show what the completed puzzle will look like to help people who are assembling it. And again, this was entirely my fault that it didn't register right the first time. I loaded it with one hand. So always make sure that you're loading your mat properly, and that is probably the most important thing with print and cut. So it seems like there's a few steps involved in print and cut, but it really is very successful when you do it correctly. Just make sure you're always following the steps and you'll get nice cuts. All right, so we got our puzzle all made. Now it's time to make the puzzle box. So here is my 7 by 10 inch piece of red. This is poster board from Dollar Tree. It's a little bit thinner than the white poster board, so I have adjusted my settings accordingly. I'm gonna apply this to my mat. Just making sure it lines up, and use my brayer. And I'm going to get the file ready in the software. Now it's time to get the file ready for the heart puzzle gift box. I had already downloaded that with the heart puzzle, so I can go back and open that file. I'm going to open a new design page, go to File, Open. Now I'm going to open the heart puzzle gift box, the studio file. So select it and choose OK. Again, you could drag the file in. You'll just have to make sure you place it on your mat accordingly. So here is the cut file. It's already lined up where I want. I can turn on the grid up here, this grid settings, and show grid to make sure that my paper is in the right spot on my mat. You can use a 12 by 12 inch piece of cardstock. I just had cut mine down, so I have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, so 7 inches wide and 10 inches long. So that's exactly what I need. So I'm gonna hit send. And again, the material doesn't quite matter. I have my action set to auto, which is cut. I have my tool, the auto blade. And then if I wanted to select this, I could see that it's already highlighted all in red and it's set to cut. And I can get out my Silhouette settings sheet again because I've already done test cuts on this. This is going to be a blade 4, force of 25, 1 pass, overcut turned on, and a speed of 5. I have my paper applied to my mat. I'm gonna line it up in the machine. And load. Now I can go back to the software and hit send. So again, make sure that it cut all the way through. And it looks like it did. So I can go ahead and unload the mat. So we're going to remove this from the mat so we can go ahead and turn it over and peel the mat off of the cut paper. And you want to be careful when you're peeling the mat off that you don't crimp it or kink it because you don't want to make permanent indentations in your mat. Okay, so now we're just going to cover our mat back up so it stays as clean as possible. Set it aside. All right, so now we have our box cut out. I'll just remove the excess. You can see the score marks, so go ahead and fold on all of those. You'll want to decide what you want to be the front, the inside, or the outside. This is the side that I cut on. You can see the white lines because this is a white core paper. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold these all in. And this little piece at the end will be where we glue. So now we know this is going to be the inside, this is going to be the outside. This little thumb hole is the back side. So we want to make sure that this is the front, and then this will be the top. So we can go ahead and glue our puzzle image on the front of the box. We just need a small amount of glue. Smooth it out to make sure it's adhered, and then you can let that dry. Now we can glue the flap together. So we'll put a little bit of glue along the flap. Yours will cut a little bit bigger. I had to restart my software and my mat was already loaded, so it made it cut a little bit lower. But your flap will be about twice as wide as this, but this is fine too, so I didn't want to have to recut it. So we'll just make a little line of the glue along the flap and then just line it up. You can use a couple of things. You can hold it with your fingers. You can put a paper clip over it, or I like to use clothespins. So I'll start to put it in the right place, and then I'll release and slide it in place to hold it there. And then I'll do it on the other end. So this tacky glue dries pretty quickly, so make sure you get it smoothed into place, and then let it sit for a little bit to cure completely so that it doesn't come undone once you fold the box up. So we will let that dry. Now that the glue has dried, I can remove my clothespins and fold up the box. So just tuck in the flap, and then I can put the puzzle in the box. And now I have a cute little puzzle in a box ready to give to someone I love.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos where we have fun and make stuff. Also, follow Little Gray Squirrel on Pinterest and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see what's new.